Roger, give me that gun run. Right along that back, baby. Aim hot. Clear hot.
Ladies, gents, how's it going? Random Gary here. My name is Gary Prout. I am a British Tier 2 gallantry recipient. I received the conspicuous gallantry cross back in 2010 for actions in Afghanistan. And on my channel, I react to military gallantry, courageous acts, some military funny, some military bloopers. And I just review the general stuff that we see on military YouTube. Now, over the last couple of days, I've been hearing the news coming out about John Chapman not being dedicated a specific area in the Medal of Honor Museum. I'm going to link a couple of fantastic YouTubers below where you can see updates on that. And one of the things that I seen was whilst John Chapman was not granted one of these areas, what's his name? Is it Britt Sablinski? I think it is. Apologies, we don't typically have names similar to that in the UK. I don't know anybody with that name, so apologies if I've absolutely murdered that name, for want of a better term. But Britt has been granted it. As I was looking at all of this information, I actually found an interview that I was completely unaware of. For those of you who aren't aware, Britt led the SEAL team that was with Chapman on the hill. I'm going to watch this interview completely blind. I've not seen it. I do have another window up. I've watched quickly the John Chapman UAV video. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working on that in the background. So please, everything you hear in this video, this is my honestly held belief based on what I have seen. I have been criticized in the past for analyzing people's behaviors. People saying I'm not a psychologist. I'm not. But guess what? I'm a human behavioral expert. I've been working in the world of human factors for the years since I've left the military, essentially. So I know a bit about how humans behave and what drives their behaviors. So let's have a look at this video. Let's see what we can see. I'm going to use a little bit of technology here. I'm going to swap over the scene. Ooh, look at that. That worked perfectly. And I'm going to get rid of my background. Ignore the mess. It's another computer I'm building. Ooh, you just seen it for a flash. Let's have a look at this video.
Now, you're aware that there's this new drone video that's been looked at, and the Air Force believes that Chapman survived and that he had to fight and that he was alive. And you also are aware that there's been criticism that you left him behind. How do you respond to that?
Well, I can tell you, we left no one behind. No one, right?
Bullshit. They absolutely left Chapman on that hill. And look, I want to be really, really clear here. In some of these instances, I completely get the decisions that were made, but you have to own the decision. So I'm not going to judge them for extracting off that bunker position, but you have to accept the reality of the situation. Chapman was left behind in that bunker. He was left to fend for himself. Now, if Britt here believes that he was dead, fine. But you need to own it. He needs to say, it was my honestly held belief he was dead. That's why we left him behind. But you did leave him behind.
What I saw, what I experienced, I know that clearly. But we didn't leave anyone behind up there.
You did.
I wasn't more than 20, 30 feet away from where John was, and that was my experience.
So actually, within the video, you can actually see them pulling off that hilltop. If he didn't leave him behind, you know, why did he have to relocate positions? It's because that bunker was in such a shitty position. And for you to say you haven't left somebody behind, you know, yeah, this area is too dangerous for me to be in. I'm going to extract 20, 30 yards, which in the grand scheme of things in a firefight can be quite a distance. But I'm going to say I didn't leave them behind, but I'm not going to be up there myself. You left them behind.
What I want people to focus on is that, you know, it's called Roberts Ridge now because we lost, right, 6 other people up there, total of 7, right? 7 Americans we lost up there. There were just as many severely wounded.
Don't disassociate yourself from this. Absolutely. 7 lives is tragic. However, we're talking about your actions in and around John Chapman. And again, you need to own it. You need to own it. Just because there was 6 other people killed, that doesn't mean that it should detract from John Chapman being killed. Just as John Chapman being killed should not detract from those other SEALs. If that's his point here, I think he's making it poorly. Each one of those lives is equally important. Each one of those lives, they deserve a bit of scrutiny.
Where everyone at some level was impacted by this fight.
No doubt.
You know, so not a day goes by. You know, I'm responsible for all these guys. Not a day goes by that I'm not thinking of that.
So originally you said you had to land on the mountain. You had to go to the objective, but why did you have to land on the X? Didn't you break protocol by landing on the X, which is against protocol? Why did you do that?
So the original plan was to land, so as a leader, my job is to accomplish my mission with the least amount of risk to my force. To do that, I was going to land at another location and then make my movement on foot to the top of the mountain. There were other changes that forced me to adapt my plan, that forced me to go to the top of the mountain.
And what were those changes?
Well, I wasn't aware of them. I was told I needed to be in position by sunup, and that's what I did. So
Chapman lost consciousness. The SEAL on top of the rock behind the bunker, he was fragged with the grenade. I remember the SEALs coming together and then them rolling off the hill. I can remember in that video them talking about how steep the hill was, and you can see it because they were rolling off. And then I'm sure it says that Chapman regained consciousness at 6 o'clock. When was sunup? I thought sunup was quite constant in Afghanistan. Let's have a quick look here. So it was March 3rd. Where was Wheels down from the first helo? Wow, so they were actually wheels down around this timeline here. I can find is 4:56. What time is sunrise in Afghanistan? 4:56. Sunrise. This is Kabul. Sunrise 6:20. 6:20. That does not match with his timeline. There was according to this, there was a capability for them to offset, for them to drop in a less vulnerable position, and for him not to know what factors were influencing that decision. That's a strange thing, I think, for a commander to say. Yeah, Chapman at 6 o'clock, yeah, it was 6 o'clock, between 6 and 6:11, he's involved in that hand-to-hand combat, and he had lost consciousness for some time previous that happened at around about 5 o'clock. So it actually still wasn't light, because in the video it talks about it's starting to get daylight as Chapman regained consciousness. So his story isn't quite matching with, say, I used that wrong. His timeline of events, so Britt's timeline of events does not quite match with what we see on the video and what we see online in both the timeline that's accounted for and also that physical sunrise in Afghanistan at that time of year between the 3rd and the 4th of March. You're looking at 06:20 in the morning sunrise. Not matching.
Making it, going back to, if I could make that decision point for you, making that decision to go back. And so I have all those tactical thoughts running through my mind. And then I'm certain at this point also that this is a one-way trip. You know, like I said, superior force I'm going against. Odds are definitely not in my favor, but it is probably Neil's only chance. And I'm sorting all through this in my head. This thought is in the back of my mind. Very vividly remember it sitting there on that helicopter, and it's the Boy Scout oath. It's on my honor, I'll do my best. On my honor, I'll do my best. On my honor, I'll do my best. Repeatedly, that phrase. So I give the order to move out, crawling across the ground to send my wounded guy first, because it's going to take him the longest time to go. And then from that, I crawl over to John. Crawl over the top of John looking for some sign of life from him, and I didn't get any, no movement, no sound or anything.
Again, in the video, him and the wounded guy, I'm guessing he's talking about the guy who was fragged on the rock top, the guy with the belt-fed machine gun, who was absolutely smashing up the second bunker position. In that video, in the unmanned aerial vehicle, I do not see Britt crawling up to John. John's on that far side of the bunker. I see him having a conflab. I think it's him and 2 other SEALs. I don't think it's just him and the wounded guy. Wounded guy sets off. He follows along behind. I do not see him crawling over to John to check him. I need to rewatch the video, but I don't recall that happening.
From him.
You are now looking at a new angle, and at the left of the screen can be seen the 2-man fire team and team leader on top of the boulder. Just below it is Bunker 1 with the mortally wounded Chapman. One SEAL can be seen firing his modified M60 machine gun from the hip into Bunker 2 on the right side of the screen until he is struck by grenade shrapnel and tumbles 10 feet off the top of the boulder, collapsing at the feet of his team leader, thus setting off a chain of events that would lead to the SEALs abandoning Chapman on the summit. The wounded SEAL and the team leader can be seen conferring about his injuries. Moments later, the SEALs decide to retreat from the summit because their position is untenable in the face of continued massive enemy firepower. They can be seen moving toward the right side of the screen and passing the body of Neil Roberts. Unfortunately, the SEALs do not pass John Chapman, who is above them and inside Bunker 1. This angle shows 3 SEALs in a triangle. The larger black heat signature is a smoke grenade. Just to its left is a donkey and dead Al-Qaeda fighter killed by Chapman. The steepness of the mountain can be seen as the SEALs begin to slide down the near sheer face.
And then make the decision we're going to continue on, relocate over the side of the mountain, which is just over the hill. It wasn't more than 20 feet, just to get out of the direct fire with them shooting straight at us.
Do you think that Chapman survived?
Well, it wasn't what I experienced. It wasn't what I saw.
Answer the question. It wasn't what you experienced. It wasn't what you saw. You've seen the video. Do you think he survived?
I can't get on my radio, change frequencies quick enough to talk to them, to tell them do not land on top before they get, they themselves had another RPG hit the engine and then they crashed on top.
And why didn't you radio them beforehand so that they knew that you'd already had a helicopter hit there?
So in the situation that we were in, it was our radios had a limited range on how far I could transmit on them.
I'm going to read you something.
I'm a little bit confused here, and to give you some context, so Chapman was a combat controller. My job in the military was a combat controller. I specialized in artillery, mortars, precision weapon systems. I spent time in a tactical air control party, though, so I'm very familiar with the policies, procedures, the actions that you do. I'm pretty sure that after they pulled off the hill, in the UAV video and in the narration that shows Chapman's actions, it actually has, I think it's a Spectre, I think it's a AC-130 gunship engaging John's position. And in that video, it says it's under control of this team commander.
The team leader, desperate for relief and now with 2 wounded teammates, asks for uncontrolled airstrikes from an orbiting Air Force AC-130 gunship. The impacts you see are from 105mm howitzer rounds being fired onto the ridgetop in order to save the remaining SEALs. Because neither the SEALs nor gunship know Chapman is alive, he is experiencing these detonations from his position.
So he was able to control that AC-130. He was able to give it enough of information to be able to engage that hilltop, but he could not get the signal to the next helo to say, don't land on that LC. It's horrific. It's ridiculous. That's hard to believe. And I think, where's this timeline? So he rolled off. He rolled away from John at around about 5:16. It says here. Is it? Looks like it's about 5:16. When does 7 o'clock? From 5:16, him getting out of that bunker to 7 o'clock. He was not able to get on the radio, yet he was able to call in that AC-130.
That I'm sure you're familiar with because it's been published. This is from a transcript.
Ladies, gents, I'll cut that last bit of the video if you're familiar with it. It was a bit of a hatchet job against him. It was trying to call in his credibility, his integrity. It was nothing to do with Chapman, so I decided to edit it out. Please message me. What are your thoughts below? I don't get that warm fuzzy feeling that we've got somebody here who is being honest and open and completely transparent about the truth. I've got somebody who potentially, I kind of hope they're struggling with the decisions that they made and they're trying to convince themselves. At worst, we've got somebody who's trying to be deceptive and is trying to cover up what they did because they realized that it does not align with the story that was published initially. What do you think? Let me know below. Hope to see you again very soon. Have a good one. Bye.